everyone. I am Sarah Kelzer from Cludo, and today we're going to go over MyCludo under the hood, configuring AI site search for higher ed. And today we're going to go beyond the search bar and into the backend that actually powers search. So this session is going to focus on configuration decisions inside MyCludo, which is Cludo's site search backend, and how those decisions directly shape search quality, AI reliability, and long-term maintainability. If you manage Cascade CMS or multiple higher ed systems, this will be a practical session and directly applicable for any site search. So we're going to walk through the crawler strategy and content ingestion, as well as relevance tuning controls before you go live, structured testing before you go live, and then also analytics and governance as you move forward. And then just how AI summary and AI chat build on that foundation. It's all part of the same infrastructure for Cludo. And because AI responses are not standalone features for us, it really does reflect on the crawler quality and the structure and the relevance rules. So if those are strong, AI is strong. And if those are weak, AI kind of amplifies that weakness. So before we dive into the back end, let's briefly connect this to what your end users are actually seeing for Cludo. And in MyCludo, that feeds into site search, which is like a traditional search engine results page. Then we have something called AI summary, and that is the generated summary of the top 5 results. And you can also get feedback through a thumbs up, thumbs down, selecting an option, as well as a comment. We also have AI chat, which is a similar logic in the back end as our AI summary. So it's those 5 top results, and they can give feedback. We do have this new tool called AI mode, which is a little bit like a blend of both AI summary and AI chat. It's more conversational, so it will understand like the context of previous prompts before it in the chat. And I just think it's worth mentioning we have some other front-end features that go beyond that. So our intelligent 404 and feedback module, as well as search bar features and some different like more niche search engine results features. But today is more about where we start as far as the backend. Where does backend discipline begin? With crawlers. And if we can't see the content, we can't surface it, we can't summarize it, we can't answer it. So everything starts with ingestion and powers all of Cludo's tools. The crawler, again, powers the site search. It powers our AI summary, AI chat, and AI mode. So this is not really a separate index for AI. It's all one content layer feeding into everything. So as far as crawler complexity goes, and we'll get into a live demo here shortly, it's really up to the complexity of your organizational's like digital presence, as well as maybe just the complexity of your campus. On one end, we might have a small liberal arts college that has one crawler, a tightly governed site, minimal subdomains, a few third-party systems. And so really they only need one crawler to set up. But on the other end, we might have a large public institution that has separate governance across departments and schools. And so they just need distinctive crawlers and different rule sets for their website search. But the majority of our higher ed will somewhere fall between 4 and 12 crawlers. That typically reflects segmentation by the main site search, the catalog, athletics, bookstore, alumni portal, any vendor-hosted program finders or maps or what have you. There's lots of different ways that we can have different searches and different content that need different crawlers. Really, crawler architecture is mirroring how your institution is built. And more importantly, in Cludo, we do not charge for any extra crawler or index domain. It's really about the flexibility that you need from us. It's not about pricing. And with our tools, this is where buckets as far as outcomes go. So we want to capture everything. So HTML or files, public or private, dynamic content as well. We want to keep it up to date. So we have full crawls at 24 hours. We can do smart crawling every 6 hours, or we can URL push for individual pages as soon as they're published. We also want to reduce clutter, so exclude outdated content. We want to use date freshness if we can, and exclude out low value content, maybe things like pagination or blogs. Just depends on if that adds value to your search. We want to structure the crawlers intentionally. Some of these, like display fields and filters and facets, are more on the design aspect and the user experience aspect, but relevance controls can also happen here too. So we can pull out date fields to be used in boostings. And then also, if you have any areas that you're just not sure why it's not being crawled or indexed, we can troubleshoot that with our test crawler. We can look at activity and logs and page inventory. So this is where I'm going to go look at a live demo of crawlers within our client MCLA. And I'm going to move my face up here too. So you can see that they have multiple different crawlers. They are a smaller public university, and really it's because they have a lot of different subdomains, but maybe we could group these together. It just depends on, and what I will show you in a little bit is if the structure of their content is the same across these websites, then it's not so big of a deal to capture them in one crawler. The nice part about breaking them up, though, is the flexibility in the future, because you can mix and match crawlers into what we call engines. That's like the output piece of our tool. And so really it's an easy to set up process, and you've got lots of like configuration options here. If I go into their main website and hit edit, we have this newer feature where it's a guided setup of crawlers. So you can name your crawler. You could say, hey, this is the main site, or they, in this case, use their domain. Then you put in the different domains that you want within the crawler. So www.mcla.edu/, and then we'd capture any like directories or folders after that. This is one piece too of why you might want a different crawler, is if there's different languages. If you have fully transcribed different websites, you might want to have one in English, one in Spanish. This will help us to index that content easier. There are some more advanced options. I would say page inclusions specifically for the main site might be your CRM forms, things like visit or request information, book a tour. Those sort of things get missed just because we're not going to automatically find them. They're usually on a different subdomain, usually on apply. Whatever the domain might be for that form. So that's where we want to put in the page inclusion. And then we also want to make sure that we exclude out areas that either have pagination, pop-ups, maybe internal utilities, and you can get a little bit more granular with it. As far as URL regular expression goes, you can also put in patterns that we should ignore. After this, we have some behavior areas. So we can crawl files, we can crawl sitemaps, we can respect no index, no follow, or robots.txt or canonical tags. For this one, I did have to toggle off the canonical tags. You can put in your sitemap here too. For the content, this piece is another one beyond languages where we would want to make sure, for instance, like the description and the title, if your pages are wildly different, how they tag those. I think that this is one reason why to break up crawlers as well. So an example of that, we will look at just the main homepage. You can test the crawler and see what is picking up as a category, what's the description, you can see it all. And this is used as the context for relevance. You can also see the title, so that's also a great piece for relevance, as well as just display field in the search results page. Beyond these required fields, we have some others that are pre-built out that you can define within the setup here, or you can add in your own custom fields. lots of different ways to match those fields and to use those fields. But the main three on our slide deck was display fields. So a lot of times search will have title, description, URL, breadcrumbs, image. But if you wanted to have a tag or a category or date, those sort of things you need to define in the crawler structure, and you have complete control here. Other things would be the filters and facets. So can end users filter out once they start searching? And then the other piece would be the relevancy. And one I will set up in here is just an XPath to match the date, especially when we're talking about press releases or news articles or events. They usually have events here that we can pick up, and then we can use that in our relevance tools. And then the last piece is grouping these crawlers into engines. And this is a big concept, at least for me when I first started. What's the difference between a crawler and an engine? But the simplest way to describe it is crawlers ingest the content and engines are the output. So if you want to have like your library part of your main site engine, but you only want to have a library engine for a library search, you can use crawlers multiple different ways in multiple different engines, but then also have them subdivided out. So after crawlers, what would be the next step would be tuning the results. And this is more of a proactive approach versus waiting until you go live. So I would say that mostly in higher ed, we have some predictable buckets of what we can expect searchers to look for. And this is where we really make sure site search isn't just working, it's actually performing for the end users. And these tools really allow you to align the institutional language with the student language. Part of part of setting up this presentation today too, I did do an evaluation of 10 institutions and where search really lied for them. And really there's so many searches. There was 130,000 searches across these 10 institutions from 1,000 enrollment to 30,000 enrollment. And a lot of them fall into the affordability. So lots of talking about money. Can I afford this? Do you have scholarships for nursing? How do I pay my bill? Those sort of things. Registrar was another one too, looking for transcripts, records. How do I withdraw or drop? Calendar. Are you open today? Is the gym open today? Those sort of things. And so if we can address those types of searches, that will account for 12% increase. And then these other ones are also very big buckets. And the main thing here is that you can look at your search analytics already today and see what are your popular searches so that you can address them in your search. And then part of this takeaway from today too will be, I have some ideas as how you could tune this. And the tools that help with performance for search rankings are synonyms, misspellings, page rankings, and boostings. Average setup for all of these are on here as well as their top setup. And I'll just go ahead and switch over into this setup in MyCludo. So if I go into tools, we can start with misspellings. A lot of these are going to just be like academic speak and typical misspellings that we see. So like abroad is often misspelled just by a typo, academic calendar often misspelled, or just calendar. And so we have a whole list that we can provide you so that people can get the right information, even if they fat finger the keyboard. Synonyms too. We have a whole list of different academic speak synonyms. One that I keep running across is if you have housing on campus and you also have open houses. People that search for housing sometimes will get open house information, whereas we need to really link both housing with residential life. So we can actually show you that housing. So you can group all of them together. So apartment, campus living, dorms, housing, living on campus, resident. These are all very simple to set up. So you just place all of your synonyms in here. if you do use the asterisk, that captures the variations of that keyword too. Outside of misspellings and synonyms, boostings is a great place to start as well. So these are defined by either URL value, field search, numeric, date freshness, and files. A lot of them are going to be URL value, meaning if it has www or maybe something related to money, anything over 100% boosting value is going to up boost that content. Now, if we go in the opposite direction, anything that has under 100%, we're going to down boost that content. So a lot of times if you have URLs with a year, or maybe you want to also down boost files, you can do that in this portion. And in a little bit too, we'll also show you testing. So that's where some of these rules you might see, oh yeah, results are cluttered up with out-of-date content. Can we find something in the URL? Can we find something in the metadata? And then use that as an indicator to down boost that content. Then the last relevancy tool is going to be page rankings. And so for this, I am actually going to show you tuition specific to the money question that we get on a lot of websites. So for admissions, if we name it admissions cost, I've had this naming convention where you put in maybe like the department or kind of category and then put it in. It's just a little bit easier to look at when you're looking at a bunch of page rankings. And then again, if you use this little asterisk, you can put in cost, and anything with a variation before, anything with after will capture. So even if I say, what is the cost of tuition, it would capture it by both of these rules here. And then you can add in your pages. So here we have the cost of attendance ranking first. You can also exclude out pages. And then we do have something called audiences. So you can be even more granular of how a search shows up for end users. So after we do some tuning and proactive work, we can start testing. And this is again before you go live. What I would do in this type of test, I have some tests that you can run yourself. That will be another takeaway. Same with tuning and crawler, like inventories. I'll have those as takeaways after this session. But for testing, we've grouped them into kind of how we see queries. So the most popular queries we want to address because we want people finding information that's an easy, like low-hanging fruit that we can fix and help the most people. But beyond that, we want to see like, how does search perform when we do a misspelling? How does it perform if we use a synonym? How does it perform if it's a variation of the same word, but it's maybe worded a little bit differently? What's the difference in how does our search react to more of that natural language, long tail queries? And then just ultimately evaluating intent of it all. Are they getting to the right content? So testing helps you proactively address these search issues based on what you already know. An example of this is different wording, different phrasing, same intent, but like, how much is it going to cost me versus tuition versus scholarship for nursing? Trying to get to that ultimate question of how much will I owe? So we have this kind of like testing framework. And again, I will provide a spreadsheet that you can also run just these normal types of searches bucketed into popular, misspelling, synonym, variation, and long tail. So right here we have transcript. When we search for transcript on the search before you go live, either within MyCludo or in a demo site, we want to see what are the results. And you'll know your Canvas a little bit better than I would, but maybe for transcript, you want to have the office of the registrar come up first because that's where your transcript information is. Or you want to also provide unofficial transcript information, or maybe information on dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment for high school students. what I would do is also write a little note about the observations. Sometimes this will be related to, hey, PDFs are coming up and it's just cluttering results, or out of date content's coming up. Maybe events are coming up. Some of those things that you can observe will just give more context when you're reviewing this later on. And then as far as decisions go, you can use your search tooling to identify if the content is available. Maybe it's just one of those relevance tools that we just set up. Or if it is something that is missing content, but you're not able to address that missing content, then you might have this stopgap of setting up a banner, an AI canned response, or a quick link. They all live within MyCludo. It's available for you as well. It could be a crawler fix. So some things like, if it is, we can't crawl the content because it's blocking our crawlers, we might need to whitelist our crawler IP. If it's something related to canonical tags, robots.txt, or no index, we might need to toggle those off. Or if it's just something that doesn't fit in the scope because we haven't told the crawler to pick it up, then we need to set it up. Then the ultimate goal, if it's missing content, is to actually create that content, which lives outside of Cludo. But then once it's indexed, you can come back in, or once it's created, you can come back in and index it with our update content tool, as well as add in a page ranking so that it's front and center, top of mind. So after we have done tests to the site search and we go live, then it's the analytics, which is that reactive, whereas testing is that proactive. And so once users search, MyCludo becomes your feedback system. And what students are searching for and can't find to use, there is either that search issue, content issue, index issue. So that's what we're trying to address here with analytics. I have a couple scenarios here too, so you can always go back to these after this session. But we have 4 analytics areas I'll review, and lots of different other areas that you can go into MyCludo. But the first being searches without results. This means that people are searching for content and they're just not finding, there's 0 results in the search. So that could mean that there's a misspelling like this one, Grammarly, and we just need to fix it, or there's missing content. Another one here is small, so I apologize for that, but we sometimes will find that a lot of our clients have missing programs. It's not something they offer. People are searching for it, but they're not finding content because they don't offer it. So this is like that business case for adding in different programs at your campus. Another scenario with searches without results might be you have an unofficial name on campus. For this client, they have their dining services is called Chuck's, but it's not in any content anywhere. So the fix for this would be, for their Chuck's Giving, would just be to use a page ranking, put in the Chuck's or Chuck's Giving, and then have their dining services rank number 1. So if we go into our analytics, I'll just show you searches without results. And you can see there's a whole list of them. You can click into it to see the search term analysis, where they're searching from, and if any pages showed up, which in this case, there shouldn't be any pages that are showing up. You can fix this by selecting the little wrench, adding in one of the toolings, and then you're good to go. For all searches in our analytics, I have a few options here too. I first and foremost like seeing what is popular, what are people looking for, and then a lot of times the top searches for our clients will have these little icons behind them because tooling has been set up to address them and to make sure that they're accurate. So if we go into all searches, and you can, I'm actually going to do the last 30 days so that you can see the same interface, but we have a page ranking. We also have a banner set up for this one. With our AI as part of this tool, I like to, even if you do set up a banner or even if you do set up a quick link for search, because we use it also in our AI chat and our AI mode, I also like setting up page rankings and making sure this content is ingested and is actually, even if those user experience setups can be very beneficial for the end user. So here we have both a page ranking and a banner setup. And you'll see that for a lot of tools, or a lot of searches, that we can set up multiple different search toolings to just make it a better experience for the end user. So we got employment, jobs, nursing, human resources, tuition, library, athletics, radiology. You could take a look at your own search and just see, is this an alignment to what we see for search traffic on our website? A lot of times these are going to be very similar across different higher education. Where it gets a little bit more interesting is if we start searching for different search terms like tuition versus cost versus fee. Now we're seeing a little bit more of the variation of how people are looking for this type of content. And then the last one that I wanted to show is also just the long tail queries. And so if we search for what or how or any of the questions, how does it start off with, we can see those longer tail queries. For MCLA, that was about 3% of their search volume in January was 5 or more keywords. I think for 3 or more keywords is 30% of their search volume. So it is a significant portion that's going on beyond 1 to 2 keywords. As far as the really long keywords, though, it's still not as much as I would expect it to be. So I think we can see that changing. It'll be interesting to see where they're at in a year or so. Let's go back to this. So we kind of went over popular searches, using all searches to identify those variations and identifying long tail queries. Then we have AI chat analytics. So the few examples I have here are going to be, one is just how far in advance students are looking for information. Students are planning 6 months ahead of time. And so one is commencement. The AI picked up last year's commencement information. So it's not helpful. The end user ended up ranking this negative. The fix was just adding in more content for a save the date. You could also use AI canned response to address this as a stopgap. Same for, okay, this is a little bit different. This is for printer locations around campus. And so for this one in particular, this was something that just wasn't indexed. It was an oversight by Cludo, and it lived in their tech help area. So we just needed to set that up in crawlers. And then this last one is an example of where can I check application status. And what was interesting is they did give us more feedback. I don't see where to check status on that page. It says for accepted students. So I think this is just, there's a missing landing page, and the answer isn't wrong to say, okay, go into your Common App and check your status. It's just that there's a miscommunication here of how to do that or where that button is. And if there's just an explanation on that on a landing page outside of Common App, that could help alleviate what to do. So in our analytics, we can go into chat. There's a lot of great feedback in here. So you can see all conversations. You can see what the response was, what URL was provided. It was successful. Did somebody click the URL? A lot of the really gold analytics are actually going to be more of the negative ones or unanswered. So these are a little bit longer or have answers that were or questions that were unanswered. Same with feedback. We've got all feedback versus positive feedback versus negative feedback. I actually think this need to talk to someone would be a great opportunity. There's other times where people are looking for like a human. This is a great opportunity to put in like a real person AI canned response so that people know how to get to the main campus operator to get help or be redirected to get help. The last analytics that I'm going to show today is our AI summary analytics. And the one example here I have is very related to that, like 6+ month out. People are looking for content or information. And this one is they have this violin repair workshop at MCLA that's very popular. And they were searching for this in December for a June class, and they were getting June 2025. So unfortunately, the content was out of date, but that just tells you, hey, we actually need to up our publishing of our content a little bit. So if you go into AI summary, this is going to be very similar to AI chat, where you get an overview of the summaries, and then you also have the feedback, the all feedback, positive, negative, and comments. So at the end of here, I have given a little bit of those categories of what analytics can show you. So the searches without results, we looked at typos, we looked at missing programs like aviation, we looked at nicknames that aren't really officially nicknames like Chuck's Giving. All searches, we looked at popular searches and making sure that tooling is set up for them. We looked at search variations, so how are students actually looking for content? It's not just tuition, it's usually something else as well. And then looking up long tail queries and making sure your content is ready for that. For the AI chat, we saw some missing content that just need to be indexed, like that printer locations one. We looked at task-based ones, like how do I check my application? We saw the real person ask, which is a great opportunity for AI canned response. For AI summary analytics, we saw a lot of out-of-date content. And we talked about that future planning for content. A lot of times too, these are just like very overly specific. So with that, these are the specific takeaways that I have for you today, is that we just need to build a repeatable testing framework with the testing, separate search problems from content problems in that process, and then turn those insights into concrete next action steps. And with that, I will open it up to questions and then also provide this as a takeaway for you all. So you'll have all of the things you need to test your own search after this. So before we wrap up, I want to bring this full circle and then also get you some of these resources to test your own site search out. But today really wasn't about just those features. It was about a structure. So search performance starts with what you index, relevance, tuning shapes what ranks, testing validates what you expect, analytics tells you what you missed. And AI sits on top of all of that. And AI isn't magic. It does reflect that foundation that you give it. If your crawler is incomplete, if AI can't see the content, if relevance is in tune, AI will confidently surface the wrong thing. But when the backend is intentional, AI becomes reliable. And so the big takeaways here are search starts with what you index, relevance, tuning is governance, and testing should be structured. And finally, analytics is your feedback loop, and it's just not a set it and forget it utility. So yeah, if you go onto this page, the crawler checklist, that's a hyperlink. Higher ed tuning is a hyperlink, and relevance test is a hyperlink. So feel free to download those and use them. And if you'd like to go deeper, you can reach out to me. This is Calendly, and then here's my email. Some ideas of what we could do is I could set you up a demo account with a demo website so you can see how site search would work on your website and your content. And you can also test out the AI summary, AI chat, AI mode. I can also run a crawl inventory for you and or just meet up and talk about your environment. And final remarks are, I just like to thank Hannon Hill and the Cascade community for hosting. This is my third time coming. It's always such a lovely group of people that are willing to share their experiences. And at this time, I'm open to taking any questions. So feel free to drop those in the comment box or the instant messenger. Okay, bye.